So, good day to Jonathan Mondschein. Obviously, myself is Pierre Lombard from Maximacs, and I'm going to just ask Jonathan to introduce himself.
Thank you, Pierre, and thanks for inviting me to this forum. Happy to answer your questions. Just a little bit about the company of which I'm a partner. We're the Richard Franco Agency. We were established in 1947 by Mr. Richard Franco, who at the time was, we started our business as cashew agents for shippers of cashew kernels. We're also selling to other markets as well, including Europe, the Far East, and even some sales into the Middle East as well as Eastern Europe. Well, I have to say that the American market's a very creative market and tends to buy the whole range of styles. It's a very nimble market that responds to price movements. I would say you've got a whole range of buyers in macadamias that I would say don't really exist in the same way in cashew or Brazil nut, because macadamia has both a snack nut application as well as an ingredient application. But the U.S. market loves macadamias. That's proven by the fact that I think we're consuming somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% of kernel production. And really the market, the degree to which there's enthusiasm in the consumption really depends on the degree of volatility in the pricing of the kernels at any given time. I would say that once the price comes into a certain range, that the American market can get very much behind macadamias in terms of promotion. And we've seen that quite dramatically in the last decade.
Yeah.
In terms of overall buyers, we have the American market I'm not sure how to best put it. I would say you have a number of a small amount of very large buyers, and you have a very good quantity of small buyers of macadamias. I would say that there haven't been a lot of efforts to promote macadamias in the United States, and buyers are responding to demand that they're getting from small and medium-sized consumers in the marketplace. But there's, I would say that, this may be we may be getting into this part of the conversation when we talk about consumption.
Yes.
But really, the only way macadamias have been promoted in this market, which is in quite a contrast to the way other nuts are promoted in this market, is by price. When the price, when you see big swings in volatility, that discourages buyers. In terms of when you see pricing move from high to low and low to high very rapidly, and when you have a situation where buyers would like to buy, but there's no availability in the marketplace, that creates a problem with confidence in the product. And right now, I say that's sort of the watershed idea or problem that we're seeing, or we might expect to see in the future of macadamia. I think we have to back up a couple of years and look what happened around May of 2014, where the market basically took off from levels about $1 or $2 a pound lower than where they are today. Depending on the style and the origin and the processor, and just the general quality. Yes. But I think when the market moves, when history has shown us that when the price for style 4 moves above $15.50 a kilo, that is sort of a breaking point. Style 4 is a bit of a bellwether in this market because it can be used both it's been used traditionally and successfully in both snack nuts as a mix, and it's also being used by ingredient-oriented manufacturers in their confectionery and bakery applications.
Yes.
From the standpoint of the world market, that's how we often gauge consumption in the United States, and what I've seen is a drop-off of the usage of Style 4s and 4 large here.
Yeah.
Once the price crossed over the $6.50 to $7 a pound range. And that's actually a benchmark that I can say is accurate or applies to the last two cycles where similar jumps in price have occurred. The consumption drops off, people stop promoting, and if those prices are sustained over an extended period of time, you find that the most tried and true segment of the market, that would be the ingredient users, they tend to you start to see products being removed from the supermarket shelves. And they're substituting with other, maybe making the same product but substituting with other nuts, or removing the product altogether from the supermarket. This is what's occurred in the last 2 years, in my opinion. That the way we tend to look at the market, as I've defined, in two camps. You have the snack manufacturers, you have the ingredient manufacturers, or ingredient users. The snack nut manufacturers are the most nimble. They'll respond to price movements faster than the ingredient users. The reason for that is when it comes to snack nuts, the macadamia or any other nut in their products represent a very high percentage of the overall cost of producing the specific product they're promoting.
So if I can just say that Style 1 and 2 very typically, but possibly 4L in some cases.
Yes, but even Style 4 regular, 9 to 14 millimeter, 10 to 15 millimeter, those as well are impacted.
We are all hearing about additional plantings around the world, whether it's in China or Kenya or wherever, but certainly in South Africa, there are projections of the on an in-shell basis, the supply possibly in the next 5 years creeping up to 75,000 tons. Time will tell whether we achieve that, but let's assume we do. And the likely impact of that is because our Style 4s, 5s, and 6s, our ingredient styles, make up a far bigger proportion of the kernel yield, there will be a vastly bigger yield of this product than what we will have of our snack styles. How do you see the market responding to it? Who has to push that into the market? If a farmer sits here today and say, look, I'm going to have a much bigger proportion of my nuts going as ingredients, who's going to sell that for me in 2020? Who's going to sell it in 2022? And will these ingredient guys, will they be able to respond to a sudden increase over the next 2 or 3 years of these industrial grades, or ingredient grades rather?
It's an excellent question, and it's a question that is critical to the industry, no doubt. I think that, as I referred to earlier, the way excess stock of any given style has been promoted has purely been on the basis of price.
Yes.
That's not. It's. I'm not being judgmental about it at all. It just is. It is what it is. And that I would say that at this point there doesn't seem to be any other mechanism in place to promote in advance the consumption of these.
That to be honest, by the sounds of it, we're saying that somebody's going to pay for it. It's either going to be the farmers with lower prices, or it's going to be through some marketing. But essentially, at the moment, nothing is really happening, and there is not a coherent voice in the macadamia industry that is investing money in this, which, to be honest, for me as a farmer and a processor, that's a bit of a concern, to
Yes.
put it lightly.
Yes.
Um,
I can give one example of what happened in cashews around early 1990s. They were planting heavily in West Africa, the cashew trees. It was grown. It was planted more or less by subsistence farmers, and it was. But what it did is the Indian market recognized that, who used to basically import the raw material from West Africa and process it in South India and re-export the kernel, recognized there was going to be a big crop. Well, around 1998, those crops started coming in heavily. The price moved from the bellwether range the bellwether range for the main grade between 240 and 260 per pound FOB. And the price actually moved down to about $1.80 to $2, and settled in the 190 to 210 FOB range for 3 to 4 or 5 years. I would say that was a fairly stable range it traded in for a while. You can see that it was lower than the previous historical bellwether range. But what it did, basically no action was taken on part of the industry. Promotions were not put in place, but the price made cashews accessible to a lot more people in the world, and over time consumption and also awareness of the product grew enormously. And I would say that the crop is probably 2 to 3 times the size of what it was. The present crop is 2 times the size that it was then, and you're seeing prices today between $4 and $5 a pound.
So it was a number of years of the industry almost bleeding in order to have success eventually.
Yeah, the farmer's return was certainly much lower for a few years while this transition towards increased consumption was taking place.
Yeah. Well, there's one final point I want to pick up on, Jonathan. If we were to put an offer of Kenyan and an offer of South African, and both come from reputable suppliers, Kenyan is priced 20 cents less. Is there any expectation or understanding in the market that they say, no, look, South African is better, I definitely want South African? Or is there quickly a point where they say, look, it's cheaper, quality is going to be the same, I'll go for the cheaper option?
Yeah, I would say, Pierre, it is highly individualistic. When I have certain customers that will take goods from origins interchangeably, and they'll just look at the price on the day. And I have other customers, buyers, importers, who have specific preferences for specific origins. I would say that there's been relatively little effort by any one origin to point out, to distinguish themselves from other origins. When I'm asked about the differences between one origin and another, there are a few things I may talk about when it comes to South Africa, and that is that, for example, South African farming techniques are probably the most advanced or among the most advanced in Africa. They tend to come. The nuts tend to come from larger plantations with excellent quality and farming controls, and the farmers are professional farmers. So those are the kinds of explanations I'll present. Then from there, the buyers tend to make their own decisions and weigh what it is that what's more important to them. But certainly, I do find that I have plenty of buyers that are paying premiums for South African macadamias. No question about that.
Yes,
I'd like to just say one important thing that I think it's critical for your farmers to understand, and that is that you're not over the medium and long term, you're not going to have trouble selling your macadamias. People in this market really like macadamias, but I go through. There are periods of time where buyers will say, "Boy, macadamias are really good. I'm eating a lot of them, and I can afford them, and I'm eating them on a more regular basis." And I have other incidental conversations with friends and with customers who will say, "Boy, we really would like to use more macadamias, but we can't get anybody to buy the same volume at this price and that they were buying a couple of years ago." So I think it's important to understand. I guess what I want to convey is I think this is that people really like macadamias, and selling them isn't going to be a problem. But I think that you're going to find a more consistent demand once the volatility issue and the liquidity issue of supply is overcome. That's the big challenge, and I think that is something that should be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's actually a very good note to end the session on.
I hope I've given at least some insight into what we're seeing.
No, absolutely. I mean, as I no doubt expected before our session, Jonathan, it was outstanding, and you've given a very good insight. So I thank you for your time.